In 1934, the new National Socialist government of Germany decided to overhaul how the nation remembered its war dead. Like most countries, Germany reserved one day a year as a day of remembrance, and this had originally been created, as with Britain's Remembrance Day and America's Veterans Day, to pay homage to the huge number of fallen from World War I. Originally established by the Weimar Republic in 1922 as People's Mourning Day, it was a reserved ceremony held inside the Reichstag, the German parliament building in Berlin. But the Nazis knew the power of visuals, of pomp and display, and Dr. Goebbels, Reich propaganda minister, was charged by Hitler with overhauling the People's Mourning Day into something more celebratory and nationalistic, creating in 1934 the Heldengedenktag, or Day of Commemoration of Heroes. The focus was shifted from remembering the dead to hero worship. The centre of the day was Hitler himself. But by 1943, the Heroes' Commemoration Day looked to all more like a funeral service for Nazi Germany than a celebration of military heroes. It would mark Hitler's last appearance at the annual event, as he started to withdraw from public appearances as his physical infirmities manifested themselves more and more, and as defeat followed defeat for the nation. And incredibly, the 1943 Heroes' Day was almost Hitler's last day on Earth, as a secret plot was afoot to assassinate him during the ceremony itself. The reason why the 1943 ceremony was particularly gloomy and melancholy was because Germany had just suffered its greatest military defeat of the war thus far, Stalingrad. The entire German Sixth Army had been battered, surrounded, and then forced to surrender, following a terribly mismanaged campaign in the Soviet Union, for which Hitler bore ultimate responsibility. Over 300,000 German and Axis troops were killed, wounded, or captured in the city, and the balance on the Eastern Front swung to the Red Army. Germany would now be almost permanently on the defensive in the East, a true turning point of World War II. Hitler's appearance in public so soon after Stalingrad would reflect the national mood. He would attempt to reassure the people that all would be well in the East and ultimate victory would come. But for some in the army, killing Hitler was now seen as the only way to change the course of the war, and the Heroes' Day parade the best opportunity to do so. On the 21st of March 1943, Hitler was driven to the ceremony from the Reich Chancellery in his usual armoured Mercedes limousine. Arriving in front of the Zeughaus, the old Berlin Armory building, he was greeted by senior representatives of the four services. Grand Admiral Dönitz of the Navy, Field Marshal Keitel of the Army, Field Marshal Milch of the Luftwaffe, and Reichsführer SS Himmler. Moving inside, the first movement of Bruckner's Seventh Symphony filled the interior. At 1 p.m., Hitler ascended the podium to speak. In a short address, Hitler claimed that the army had successfully stabilized the Eastern Front following the disaster at Stalingrad, and his speech contained the by now familiar criticisms of Germany's enemies and resolution to be victorious, ending with praise for Germany's fallen. The last as much a funeral address for the 6th Army and 4th Panzer Armies as an address to all Germany's fallen in 2 world wars. Hitler now moved to another part of the Zeughaus where a display of captured Soviet weapons had been set up. Among the officers waiting to interpret the displays for Hitler was Colonel Rudolf Christoph Baron von Gersdorf, a staff officer from Army Group Center on the Eastern Front. The Baron was part of a conspiracy of army officers to kill Hitler, and in his uniform tunic pockets he carried 2 small British clam mines. As Hitler approached him, Gersdorf activated the 10-minute fuses, determined to stay close to the Führer and blow himself up and Hitler in the explosions. In this extraordinary photograph, we see von Gersdorff, bombs armed, standing close to Hitler and other Nazi leaders. Unfortunately for Gersdorff, Hitler, looking extremely disinterested and unsettled, barely glanced at the exhibits, and suddenly, those supposed to wander the display for 30 minutes, abruptly left after just 2. Had he sensed something was wrong? Gersdorff excused himself and dashed to a lavatory stall, managing to defuse both mines with little time to spare. And his plot was not detected by Hitler's security force. The next part of the event now got underway. Leaving the Zeughaus, Hitler was met by the Berlin garrison commandant, Major General von Haase, who incidentally was also in on the plot to kill Hitler.
Der Kommandant von Berlin, Generalleutnant von Haase, meldet dem Führer.
Hitler now reviewed the assembled troops outside the adjacent Neuerwache, a Prussian-built former Royal Guard house that had been repurposed as a World War I memorial. Following the troop review, 4 Knight's Cross-holding officers of each service of the armed forces jointly carried a large wreath inside the Neuerwache, which Hitler ceremoniously helped to lay at the memorial.
Ritterkreuzträger des Heeres, der Marine, der Luftwaffe und der Waffen-SS tragen den Kranz des Führers in das Ehrenmal.
Following the wreath-laying, Hitler next met 100 carefully selected World War I and II wounded or disabled veterans, spending a few minutes speaking to individuals and listening to their stories. The final part of the ceremony involved a march past by the honour guards of the 4 services, parading the colours and standards of the various units, Hitler taking the salute. Following this ceremony, Hitler rarely spoke in public again. His last major public address occurred in November 1943, when he spoke to 10,000 officer cadets at Breslau. In 1944, he only spoke publicly twice, giving a funeral address for famed mountain troop General Eduard Dietl on the 1st of July, and a private address to 200 leaders of German industry at the Platterhof Hotel, adjacent to his private house on the Obersalzberg, on the 4th of July. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon, details in the description box below.